Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Genesis Mindset. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Pulsechain and ATROPA in particular, and of course, the meme scene and liquidity flows. So I'm really interested in liquidity flows. I'm always interested in the big system of things. And this is also why my interest in ATROPA is unwavering. And I think I'm by no means an expert. I'm just passionately curious about it. And that hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. The price is not affecting how I feel about it. Well, actually, that's a lie. The price does affect it to some degree. And I will go into that in a little detail coming up. But my convictions remain the same. My convictions remain the same. And that's something that's very important, that consistency of mindset that I've developed through the practice of meditation, that consistency of mindset that I've been able to observe in successful people. I'm actually trying to implement it in my own life and in my own investing and in my own trading. So with that said, I'm going to get into the episode. And as always, the annoying disclaimer, but this is the Genesis mindset for investing, trading, and life. It's personal opinion only. It's not financial advice. So I'm just telling you the things that I'm interested in, what I love, what I enjoy, and why I love it. And whether you choose to take action on that, that's all on you. So all right, today's episode is about the growth of Pulsechain. It hasn't changed. Pulsechain is growing, and it's about the liquidity flows for Pulsechain and ATROPA and all the memes. And I'm going to show that, and I'm going to show the evidence of that. And I'm also going to go into detail about why things are the way that they are, just based on my own perspective. Again, I'm not an expert, just based on my own perspective. So I want to start with this because there's going to be a lot of this in the episode. So, to my flat Earth crew, forgive me. This is just my I guess this is really just my opinion on the world. Like, it takes belief to believe whether the universe is like this or it's like that. In the end, in the end, the fundamental concept, the fundamental idea is that everything is just one. So whether you want to say the earth is flat, it really doesn't bother me. I love you all the same. So please don't judge me for saying that I think the universe is like this. Just listen to the core message. That's really all that matters. So I accept you for believing the flat earth. I hope you accept me for thinking that this is how the universe is. For me, this symphony of the universe is just such an elegant and beautiful thing. I don't see any flaws with it, but that's just me. And I could just be a dum dum. So in any case, the point is that this universe is a giant interconnected web. That's the point. So from the scale of the gases forming into planets, forming into stars, it's a giant interconnected web. So it's this emptiness and this light, this energy and this consciousness. And then it creates this earth. And the earth is just this giant interconnected web of interrelated things. So this exists because of that. It's all cause and effect. And the interplay of the cause and effect, fire, earth, wind, air, the interplay of all these things, the yin, the yang, whatever it is, everything relies on each other in the universe, on the earth, in nature. That's just how nature it is, because it's this one interconnected ocean. We see things from our human mind, we see things from this perspective and say, oh, that's an ant, that's a tree, that's a sun. And we divide everything in our mind. But in actuality, it's just this one existence. And so it's this interconnected web, right down from the macro scale to the micro scale. It's an interconnected web. And so going through to cities, I love using the analogy of cities as well. Cities are just gigantic interconnected webs. Blockchains are also just giant interconnected webs. And therefore, Pulsechain is just a giant interconnected web. And I did show this maybe a month or two ago. And the reason why I'm showing it again is because, especially now, people that I thought would never be showing any doubt are starting to show doubt. So in actuality, the world shows you signs. So we all think, we're these beautiful, amazing, unique snowflakes, and I have this freedom of thought. I don't actually think that. I do think that we're beautiful, amazing, unique snowflakes, but yes, you are beautiful. Yes, you are amazing, but you're also the entire universe. You are like a cell in a body. You're like an atom in the universe. You are at once a part of and totally the universe. You are at once an atom and totally the universe. So you're at once a cell and at once the totality of humanity. So humanity actually shows you through the people what's actually happening. So if you don't get caught in who the individual person is or who you think that individual person is, it's actually just the world showing you what the world is trying to express. So what you say from the perspective of another is really just a sign of how things are. But nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in Pulsechain. But people, especially now, are really starting to feel that fear. They're starting to feel that fear and question themselves and doubt themselves. Have I made the right decision? We haven't pumped. Everything else is pumped. Why is this the case? But Pulsechain is still growing. The city is still growing. The city is still expanding. Nothing has changed from that perspective. The fundamentals keep going up and the price keeps going down. It's just a bullish divergence of the macro fundamentals and the macro price. This is just a divergence. So the price at the moment doesn't reflect the truth of what this ecosystem is. So you can cut this up, slice this up in any number of ways. We all have our different opinions and perspectives on that. I particularly have mine, which I'll be going to now. So if I again use a city as an analogy, we're just in the off-peak season. So there's so many things to do in Pulsechain right now. There's so many liquid loans just launched. Power City just launched today. Like we've got Fux, we've got 9-inch, we've got all these different memes. We've got the ATROPA ecosystem. There's all these things to do. There's all these places to go and explore. You can go to the park. You can go to the botanical gardens. You can go to the restaurants. You can go to the circus. You can do all these things, but we're in the off season. There's no tourists at the moment because we're kind of exiting the bear market now. So it's like in Queensland, we have a place, Movie World. We've got like these different theme parks, Movie World, Dream World. And if you go to Movie World when it's not school holidays, it's pretty much dead. in actuality, it's probably the best time to go because you can just get straight on the rides. But that's how Pulsechain is right now. There's all these things to do. The infrastructure is being set up. It's there. But the money's not flowing in. We're in the off season. It's snowing outside. It's cold. No one wants to come because it's shit. The weather's not great. Why would I want to go visit that city? That's what it's like at the moment. So Hex was late to the party. So KDP was showing this the other day on her Twitter. She was showing that Hex started to go on its gigantic run after the Bitcoin top. So in the previous cycle, when Bitcoin topped, when your boy Dickie Hart called Bitcoin top on the day, started selling all his Bitcoin, created the top, that's when Hex started pumping up from then. So, whoever had a lot of Bitcoin and took profits at the top probably started to cycle those profits into Hex and started pumping up Hex. Started cycling profits from Ethereum into Hex. We haven't reached those stages at the moment at all in this current cycle. Things are really just starting. Some things have moved, some things haven't. And one of the characteristics of Hex last cycle was people kept saying we were decorrelated. At times we were decorrelated, at times we were moving with the market. We wanted to be decorrelated, but we were also moving with the market at times. But this is actually a good thing. This is actually an extremely good thing if we do remain decorrelated in some way where we are late to the party and we run late. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's extremely bullish. The reason why is I would say a maxi would be someone who's just all in. I'm very much largely in the Richard Hart ecosystem because I believe it has the highest upside potential. But I was all in at the peak of the bull market on Hex. All in. I put my entire portfolio into Hex. And then during the bear market, I was also all in with the perception that I'll just generate yield. Now, at the minute, it's like Probably wasn't a good decision. It's like, well, hang on, I probably should have had some in stables, right? If I just had some of that in stables, I could have been buying up these prices. So then it caused me to reflect. It caused me to see where my plan didn't work. And so now I do everything in thirds. So I try to divide my portfolio up into thirds. So I have a third of my portfolio in the Richard Heart ecosystem, a third of my portfolio into blue chips, Bitcoins, Ethereums, your kind of top 10s, your layer ones, and then a third of my portfolio in metaverse and AI. The reason why is because I think metaverse and AI is fundamentally going to be a part of the future. So it's a way for me to actually keep in tune with what's happening there by actually putting money into it, so I can stay in tune with it, so I can keep studying it and learning. And I do actually have another playlist on my channel where I do monthly roundups of everything that's happening in artificial intelligence. I want to be someone who stays on top of it all. I want to be in tune with it because I love it. It's awesome. It's like, it's the direction the world is going. The intersection of artificial intelligence, metaverse, blockchain, cryptocurrency, this decentralized financial system. I want to be at the forefront of all of that because I love it. I'm an optimistic futurist in that way. I really am building and creating what I believe is going to be the utopia of the future, heaven on earth. So at the moment, I try to divide everything into threes. So now if I keep my portfolios in threes and metaverse and artificial, or like blue chips, your Bitcoins and your Ethereums have had a good run, I can take profits out. And if Pulse and Hex hasn't had a run, where am I going to put those profits? Into Pulse and Hex. So again, it really just depends how you view these things. If you are all in on Pulse and Hex and it's not moving like everything else is, this is why you're starting to feel afraid, because you have all of your risk in the one basket. So that's going to affect your psychology. It's going to affect your mindset. And that's also what I realized. I love risk. I live for risk. My whole life is like based on like living in a way that nobody else really lives that I know. So, but I also know that there's a limit to that. So my consciousness also, when it's too risky and I don't see a way out, it's like, well, this is really not good for my psychology. So I need to actually take the steps to alter that. And so this is why I did rule of threes, and I just do everything in rules of threes. It's just a blanket thing because I just love threes. Trinity, mother, father, child. I just love threes, right? So I do everything in threes, and I do my buys in stages of threes. I do my sells in stages of threes. And it just works for me. I don't need to overthink anything. I just think in threes and it's done. There's no overthinking. It's been the most profound change in my investing and trading, I have to say. It's been the most profound change on my psychology by having that structured plan. So now, carrying on, let's go into the liquidity flows that are actually happening in Pulsechain. So this is why I started with nature is the truth, because it's just all the same, man. The macro to the micro, it's all the same. It's all the same. Everything follows the same order, the same structures, the same principles. Humans, quantum. Well, actually, I mean, yeah, you could argue quantum and general relativity are not, and this is like the division in science, but there's going to be something that unites them. So in actuality, there is a unity there, but we just haven't discovered it yet. So I always like to look to nature for the answers. So I'm using the analogy of water as the liquidity flows. And this is what's happening at the moment. This is the only reason why things aren't pumping in Pulsechain, is because there's not enough water to fill up all the different lakes. There's only so much water that's circulating around within Pulsechain. It's going from this to this to this to this. It's going here. It's bubbling up. That lake is filling up. Then it dries out, goes into then it forms a cloud, goes into the next, rains, and then dries out, goes into the next. There's not enough water going around. There's not enough liquidity going around. It's just the same liquidity going from place to place. Or you could think of it like, a bucket, 6 different buckets, and you pour the water into one bucket, and then the other buckets don't have any water. So each bucket you can consider a token. So I'm going to show this so it's a little bit easier to understand. So it's really just going from one pool, one body of water to the next, to the next, to the next. This is what's happening. And so even now, everyone's actually trying to capture the movement of that flow. So even now, especially, I notice, maybe it's because I'm so ingrained into the ATROPA ecosystem, but there's a lot. Like I almost think, and I studied this today, and I could be wrong, but the ATROPA ecosystem was the first Pulsechain only, like it was birthed within the Pulsechain ecosystem, meme economy, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. So now everyone now starts to say things like, you hear this language of, oh, this is like the new ATROPA. And so all they're trying to do is capture the flow of liquidity that's moving around within the Pulsechain ecosystem, within its isolated ecosystem. It's going from here to here to here, and they're trying to capture it with these different tokens. So first you had ATROPA. That filled up. People took the profits out. Then it moved elsewhere. Started to go into other things like PRS. And this is by no means comprehensive. So Pulse Reflections. Then Mega. So it flowed into Mega. Mega had a top, got pulled out. Then pTGC. pTGC had a top, got pulled out. Then you've got these other anomalies, you could say, within the ecosystem, like HOA, ROB. And now there's even some really brand spanking new things like HSA, which is based on HOA. That's one of my boys who's made HSA. And everybody's trying to follow this idea of connecting liquidities, liquidity bonding. And you hear this, oh, this is like the new ATROPA. The fact that people are using that kind of a language makes me extremely bullish on the ATROPA ecosystem, because it's like this granddaddy of this idea that's embedded in people's consciousness about what it actually means to bond liquidity, what's actually happening within Pulsechain. So everybody's always starting from that foundation, which is very interesting, which means it's never, in my opinion, it's never going to die. Nothing has changed there, in my opinion. So now let's actually just show this on a chart, the liquidity bonding. So I will, here we go. Okay. So Pulsechain, we've got the big dog, Pulsechain. It topped so quickly, man. Oh, like even this, I'm kicking myself. I was just talking to one of my best friends, Hex Holmes. Hashtag follow Hex Holmes on Twitter. He's doing awesome things with the community. Real, like, extremely positive influence, even on myself. I love him. So it topped on the 23rd of May. The euphoria when this came out over Twitter was explosive. All my group chats lit up. People who had Pulsechain, where is it? It lit up. And I was even saying to Hex Holmes, like, this feels like a top. But I'd been sitting on my hands doing nothing throughout the bear market. I didn't have the courage to actually act. So I actually had to build that habit of taking the action to sell. I was too afraid to sell because I'd held for so long. I had this attachment in my mind to Pulsechain. I didn't want to lose any of my Pulsechain, so I didn't sell anything. But I was like, this is a top, man. This is a top. And if we had thought about it from the perspective of the whale sacrifice, it was over a 5x. It's like, bang, yes. But because I was thinking, me and Hex Holmes were thinking about it from the perspective of our pleb sacrifice, it was barely a 3x. So we were like, nah, it's too soon. It was barely a 3x. But from whale sacrifice, because we were saying 5 to 10x, we'll start taking some profit. 5x was the bang on. 5x was the money. But it was from the whale sacrifice. The big dogs who control everything. They're the ones that pull the liquidity out and start making things move. So let's have a look how this happened. So right here, we had a top, bang, 22nd, 23rd of May, taking it out of Pulsechain. Where is it flowing? Look where it started. ATROPA started going up against Pulsechain. It pumped all the way until the 16th of September. Then it had its top, and it's just been going down ever since. Then where did it go? Also, through this period, oh, I didn't see that. Where's June? So also through this period, oh, here we go. We got some tops here, and then we had PRS. So perhaps even had some tops here, 5th, 6th. This was the first kind of local top. Maybe this is when PRS started, 6th of June. 6th of, oh, that's July. Whoops, June, July. Okay. In any case, the money's flowing out of Pulsechain into these different ecosystems. So this lake is filling, then it gets drained. The whales drain it. Then they move it here. So the line is moving along. So we got the 16th of September. Then we had the top here on the 8th of October. And each time, everybody's telling you, this is the one. This is the one that's going to have it. This is different. This time it's different. It's going to go to whatever X market cap or millions and millions or billions, whatever it is. Every single one of them say exactly the same. Every single one. Even myself. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, this is going to go to a billion market cap. I have no idea. I don't know if this is the one, but I definitely know that it's different to the rest of the meme coins. That much I'm absolutely 100% convicted on. So then it topped in PRS on the 8th of October. Then we had Mega topped on the 20th of October. So once they top out, they'll do like a 90% drop. Has PRS done its 90% drop and started to rise? Perhaps. Has ATROPA? Perhaps it did its 90%. Now it's looking like it's still going down. So then it moved on to Mega. Then pTGC, 10th of November, had its top. Now it's starting to bounce again. It's had its 80% drop. Actually, I don't want to say it. Well, I mean, I don't have that much influence, so who really cares? But I actually think it's going to go lower. I could be wrong, but I do think it's going to go lower. I do think it has to go to the 90s. Just like everything else, everyone says this is different because of this mechanism or that mechanism, but it's just a certain amount of money with a certain amount of people that can stomach a certain amount of pain or a certain amount of profit, and that's what dictates these charts. Then HSA. It's 27th of November, had its top. Now it's coming down. How far is HSA? So 75. So I think probably HSA's got more pain. Now, I'm not saying any of these are dead. I think these are all fantastic. They're all awesome narratives. Like PRS is sick. I bought some PRS. I sold it, but I'm just getting Pulse for just buying a token and then generating Pulse and then selling the PRS for a profit. That's bloody great. I'll be going back into that, but I'm going to be waiting for that nice dip. Someone made a freaking awesome video today, by the way. I strongly recommend going and watching that video where he was talking about his 90 and 10%. That's the way that he distributes. And I took a lot of gold out of that. I mean, everything the guy says. What a mad dog. And then you've got these anomalies. So they don't all do this, but really you can see the progression. Here, I've deliberately shown the progression of the line. The liquidity is flowing along and it's gradually moving across. And now this is where we are now. So we're living in a TikTok world. Honestly, I do wonder, is there going to be a meme that's going to be like a $4 billion or whatever Shiba Inu Pepe? Is there going to be that kind of a meme this time around? I really wonder, because everybody's trying to capture that liquidity. Everybody knows how to make tokens now. Everybody knows they just need to create a narrative and a token and it can pump. So you've got this extra competition of everybody trying to do the same thing. So this creates a lot of competition. So is there going to be something that's going to hold somebody's attention long enough? And this is why I'm bullish on TEDDYBEAR, because it has the ATROPA ecosystem around it. It's not, yes, it's a meme. Yes, it's got that going for it, but it has the ATROPA ecosystem around it. And there's more to the ATROPA ecosystem than just individual tokens. And I think this is something that people are really missing on. But then you have these anomalies like HOA. So the way that the community operates here, the values of the community, the connection of the community, it's operating very differently. They have something going on very different. It hasn't just created this pump and dump. Then you have Rob also doing its own thing. I guess perhaps you could possibly argue that this was its initial pump and dump, but it hasn't really had the kind of pullbacks like the rest of these have. It's trending up. And I believe the reason why is because there's only one, and everybody knows there's only one brother of Richard Schuler, and that's Shane Schuler. And if you're not getting around Shane Schuler, then you're a bloody doggo, to be honest. So hashtag Shane Schuler. All right. So, okay, back into the presentation. Okay, so it's just flowing from here to here to here to here to here. It's just flowing through these different pools that are capturing that liquidity. There's no new money coming in. There is bits and pieces. There is bits and pieces. That's the beauty of some of these narratives. They are attracting outside money. I do know of people that have come for the pDAI narrative, for example, pegging to $1. people that have come for ATROPA, people that have come for Mega, make Ethereum great again. There's people that do come across. HOA is doing a great job of that as well. There's people that do come across because of these memes. That's the beauty of them. But in general, it's not massive. So we're still waiting. We're still waiting for that big takeoff of liquidity. ATROPA, the flows of ATROPA. So this is a very deliberate image. I mean, this is how anyone who's been studying ATROPA had saw that original image where there was like ATROPA and it had down, TSFI, pDAI, and it was like interconnected. I had this realization of just this kind of visual image in my mind of like all these rivers flowing into these waterfalls, which then flow into these bigger waterfalls, which then flow into this big lake. And so that's why I've got this image here. So this big lake is like your ATROPA, and then you got TSFI, you got down that flow into ATROPA. Then you've got all the interconnected little tokens that flow into these different liquidity pools that eventually flow into ATROPA. And so the money is the water, and the bedrock is the liquidity pool. I liked that analogy. So Sonny the Detective, Freedom Tokens, they were talking about this as the bedrock. So that is what creating liquidity pools is all about in this. And still, that is my interest with ATROPA, the liquidity pools. That is my interest, and owning a piece of the decentralized finance. So it's an interconnected, designed liquidities. It's not just arbitrarily. This is something that and this is not a criticism on them. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than them or anything. This is just purely my observation. But when people come out and say, oh, this is the new ATROPA, and they just start connecting the liquidity to all these different things, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's ATROPA. Yes, it's bonded liquidity. Yes, it's interconnected liquidity. But the ATROPA ecosystem, the 414, is deliberately designing the liquidity in a way that flows to ATROPA. It's deliberately designed. It's not just arbitrarily united with different liquidity pools. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Maybe there is something wrong with that. If you read the ATROPA chat logs, 414, I do get the impression that it's not something that is supported, but take that with a grain of salt. So like I said, from the streams, it falls into the little waterfalls, the little baby waterfalls, and the little baby waterfalls fall into the larger waterfalls, and the larger waterfalls fall into the main body of water, which is the ATROPA. So owning the bedrock is about creating the liquidity pools. And so this is what I like to do. So my rule of thirds, I just simply apply it to this. So what have I done? I just keep buying. So I was buying in stages of 3 and I'd finished, but the prices are so good at the moment. My conviction hasn't changed. I bought a little bit more with some fresh capital. No problem. Average down my price. And then I apply my rule of thirds to liquidity pools. So a third of those tokens, the primary tokens, I've basically distributed in liquidity pools with a long-term plan, of 1 to 2 years. And well, really, I'd love to just keep it in there forever, depending on how the ATROPA ecosystem develops from here. It's all still just an experiment. It could fail. Who knows? I don't believe it's going to be a rug pull. I do believe Maria 414 is acting in the interests of the ecosystem, not acting in the interests of the ATROPA ecosystem, but in the interests of the Pulsechain ecosystem. I do believe that fundamentally they are a benevolent actor. Whether you do or not, that's up to you. And if you've not even looked at the chat logs, if you've not even studied it or tried to understand it, you're naturally going to be pessimistic because the human mind is erring towards negativity. That's just how we are. We just only see things from our own perspective. The brain sees things from its own perspective. When I say human mind, I'm talking about in there. When I close my eyes, I've got this whole world in there. Oh, wicked. That's the universe or the flat earth, whatever it is. I've got all those places that I've ever visited, the countries and lands and all. That's where I grew up. That's the human mind world. And so from in there, I project those experiences onto the world. And so people talk about the Matrix. Oh, Andrew Tate escaped the Matrix. He's escaped the matrix that's been imposed on us for his own little matrix. That's a thing. To really escape the matrix, you have to eliminate that mind world completely. That's the only way to escape the matrix. You can't just substitute that matrix for this matrix. You're still in the matrix. So, not that there's any, well, I mean, yeah. So carrying on. So none of this has changed for me with the ATROPA ecosystem. As a matter of fact, the more that I learn, the more that I love. I'm actually now getting some people to help me with inputting all the chat logs into artificial intelligence and trying to get artificial intelligence like Claude and ChatGPT to try and understand it. Because it's all just coded language, but it's saying the same thing. And so I also had one of my buddies reach out to me, and I'm going to cover those chat logs that he's specifically mentioned. I'm going to cover more of the chat logs and see it once I have a conversation with him. So I'll reveal that in the next episode. And so this psychology of the market cycle is the same. I've just added these circles to depict the energy. So again, you are a little dot in the energy. You are at once an individual and the whole. So you're the whole of humanity, you're the whole of the universe, but you're also an individual. There is no distinction, there's no separation. It's like there's no body and there's no mind, it's just the one thing. And so you expand that out, it's all just the one thing. And so you, within this is the world showing you the sign. So as I was showing last week with this example, the blue is the early adopters. So this is the field of energy. This is humanity, the blue, the green, the red, right? So the blue is the early adopters. The green are the people who come in after the early adopters. They start to see things and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, things are moving. They're the ones that sit on the fence and they're seeing the evidence there. And then the red, they're the deeply skepticals and, oh, okay, yep, now I believe. And that's what creates this parabola, because the blue get in here and then there's less of the blue, there's more of the green and there's more of the red, but it happens in reverse as well. So these dots in the spectrum of humanity, excuse me, also represent the downside. So now I was getting hate in one of my Twitter threads the other day. Oh, this TA is shit. Maybe they didn't use shit, but I could feel their anger. I could see it in their words, the frustration that things are going down. And then there's this person who's drawn this chart saying, oh, things are still great. And they're just like, oh, you're full of shit. I don't blame them. That's fine. All that they are to me, they are just the universe showing me where the market is at. So that's how I always interpret these things. That's how I interpret these charts. This is where the market is at. Really, now, in the anger stage. So we're in the anger. We're heading towards a depression in the ATROPA ecosystem. So things probably still are going to suck. So we're in the anger stage. But the people that I thought, even in the ATROPA ecosystem, that had solid conviction are also showing elements of doubt. And so, this is the market showing me. So I'm just going to go over very quickly that tweet. So ATROPA has dropped even further and has created a lower low. Therefore, it's not in a bullish uptrend. So I was showing this last week, this chart, and I did move this down. So yes, this is not Elliott wave. I'm not a TA guy. I have actually mentioned this several times on my videos and also on my Twitter. I'm not a TA guy. I just like, whatever, draw these squiggly lines and this goes there and that goes there. I'm like, your TA guys is like Axis Alive. He's like a goat. He's the hex goat of TA. If you want TA, you go to guys like that. Toby One Kenobi does awesome TA. Hansi Crypto as well. I'm not a TA guy, but I can still generally try to predict a story based on how I think things are going to go. So at that time, I was saying we had this big breakout of candles, greens in ATROPA. And I was like, oh, well, okay. It needs to break above this level here. So hex equals MC squared was showing that it needed to break above this level, and it didn't. So he showed some fantastic alpha, actually, on his volumetric analysis, and it didn't break out of these levels. Okay. So then I said, so it's going to have to come lower, but we don't want it to create a lower low. We want it to break out of these levels and then bounce off these levels and then go up. Then it's in a bullish uptrend. This is Moon King, IMB Roots. He showed me that little trick, his little trick of the tool belt. And this is where we're in phase 2 of the ATROPA ecosystem when it hits 3 cents. This is where the 414 dev said we're in phase 2. Right now, We're barely in phase one. We're barely in phase one. So everything's just been set up. So that's why I'm like, well, we're barely in phase one. And again, it's all just, it's a big experiment, but it's such a fascinating experiment. It's not just like, oh, here's a meme and chuck your money into it and it'll go up and then it'll go down and that's it. There's something happening here with this interconnected web of tokens that I'm fascinated by, that I'm trying to understand. And bit by bit, each day, the picture becomes clearer. And then you understand a little bit more, and then it gets a little bit dark and you try and dig a little bit deeper and you see the light again. It's like that. And then I showed that this, because I kind of wanted to show this where the price was at the time, it actually broke lower lows. So it kind of invalidated these lines and somebody called me out on that. So in any case, the narratives around pDAI and Teddy Bear are still the most exciting narratives in crypto, in my opinion. pDAI, so I was talking about the fabled algorithmic stablecoin. So in reference to pDAI, not in reference to Teddy Bear. Is it true? How true is the narrative? How much is it conjecture? How much of it is people just trying to pump their own bags? It doesn't even matter. Oops. It doesn't even matter. A narrative is a narrative. That's the point of a narrative. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Just people thinking that it's going to be true. Just like people think, oh, Pulsechain is going to do a 10,000x. Hex did a 10,000x. Pulsechain can do a 10,000x, and then you've got $1 billion in the sacrifice for Pulsechain and PulseX. It was the narrative. Is it going to do a 10,000x? Nobody knows. We're just speculating. It's the same as this. Is it going to peg to $1? Nobody knows. Does it matter if it does or not? No. If it's going to pump the price, pump the boys' bags. That's all that matters, right? The narrative is what's exciting. Nothing is more exciting than this idea of an algorithmic stablecoin, not something. It's truly decentralized algorithmic stablecoin that everybody owns a piece of. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Is it going to happen? I have no idea. I have no idea. Those same questions apply to all of crypto. So I'm still excited by the idea that the copied pDAI can be used by Richard Hart to pump the boys' bags and, of course, the ladies' bags. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. Pump the boys' bags. How do you say that with the ladies? Pump the gals' bags. Pump the boys' bags. It just rolls off the tongue. So it's delusional faith. Delusional faith is true DeFi. You know, this we're like we're going against the flow of the way the world is. In one way, we're going against the flow, but we're also diving into this other flow, this new way. So it really requires delusional faith. We can say this is how the future is going to be, but you can't possibly 100% truly know. I've had visions of the future. I've had enlightenments and visions of the future. This is how it's going to be, and my place in that. And it's like, man, shit is going to get real. And my place in that is like, no, that's the thing that makes me doubt it, as a matter of fact, because it's like, nah, there's no way that I am that in that future. There's no way. It's too much. It's too epic. It's too grand compared to, it's too much actually to comprehend. So, but there's that feeling about the future, but you can never truly know. You can sense the future, but you can never truly 100% know. One thing I do know is that truth always wins. Always wins, no matter what. Truth is nature. So even if all humanity dies, nature still continues forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Whether or not we align with nature and we also continue forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, that comes down to us. I hope that we do. I believe that we will, but it's not going to be like a given, just like all this stuff with artificial intelligence. I'm an optimist. I believe it's going to be fine. I'm not smart enough to figure out all those things, but I believe the trajectory is going to be a positive trajectory. There's going to be hiccups on the way, same as all of this. So the magic carpet ride. Your boy Dickie Hart owns the most amount of DAI on the planet. I think he owns like 25% of the supply or 50%, like a ridiculously obscene amount of the supply your boy Dickie Hart owns. That's copied pDAI. That was copied free tokens, tax-free tokens. It's like, he can do whatever the hell he wants with the copied pDAI. So if pDAI just pumps, it doesn't even need to get to $1 if it gets to 10 cents. And your boy Dickie Hart, what do you think he's going to do with that pDAI? You think he's going to go buy Lambos with it? Or you think he's going to pump the boys' bags? I think he's going to pump the boys' bags and he's going to do it for the glory. He's going to take everybody on that magic carpet ride. Teddy Bear is still thriving. The community is still strong. Every day it's so active. I'm in there just seeing what the community is like. We got people trying to create merch, people trying to get into the meme scene, really trying to get that voice out there. So it's still thriving, and I just think it's in hibernation mode until we really start to see PLS kick off. And I don't think we're going to see PLS kick off for a good few months. And the reason why I think that is because, again, even with Pulsechain, the people who I never thought would doubt are starting to have that doubt. So they're starting to feel that sting, that what they represent in that field of humanity, that where they sit in that spectrum of emotions is starting to be tested. So are they going to pass the test, or are they going to fail the test? If they fail the test, they capitulate. If they continue to hold, they succeed. Now, of course, it's like, well, what if it never does? Again, you can never know. And this is where it just comes down to the delusional faith. Unfortunately, it just comes down to delusional faith. It's at the moment, it's just the same money washing from one end of the chain to the other, and everyone trying to make their own coin to capitalize on that movement. So this is what I showed earlier. Until fresh capital actually comes in and Pulsechain really starts growing and pumping, whatever is happening in the ATROPA ecosystem will remain the same. Because we're in the TikTok generation, that's old news for now. Just like all the other things that have pumped to old news now. There's going to be another meme coin and another meme coin. So there's going to be one every month or so until we get to the point where Pulsechain breaks sacrifice, breaks its all-time high, and then that money, that new inflow of liquidity that's going to start to be attracted into the blockchain will start to flow out into all these other things. And I believe the first place is going to flow. It's going to follow those same patterns. The big dogs, the big money, they're just going to follow the same patterns. It's going to flow here into ATROPA, then down. It's going to flow here into PRS and Mega. I'm going to be monitoring whether it's going to flow in those same ways. It might not. They might want to try and be unpredictable, but I would imagine it's going to generally flow in the same way, because by the time that comes, the lowest, the one that's had the most time to suffer is ATROPA, so it's going to be the lowest. So I do think that there's going to be more pain. We're in the anger stage. I started to see angry comments, people starting to get pissed off at me. But nothing has changed. Maria's still active. Maria's still creating. Maria's still the bot. Maria is still talking. The telegrams are still full of life. The core community is still thriving. And as a matter of fact, the telegrams are bigger than any other telegrams out of all the meme coins. It's still the biggest. It's still the most vibrant. It's still the new ATROPA. Every token is like the new ATROPA. It's the granddaddy. There's something happening with ATROPA. So I'm using the opportunity to play the game. It's just a game. The LPing is just a big experiment for me to try and understand it and really earn a piece. So I'm in Sonny's pub. I'm trying to learn as much as I can from Sonny. I love you, Sonny. He just gives and gives and gives and gives and gives. Such a great guy. Just gives so much, like answering the same questions every day. Like, man, yeah, that characteristic is a phenomenal characteristic. So high volume, I'm experimenting, I'm learning. It's all just a game. Games are fun. That's what it's all about. All right. So again, back to the nature analogies. One of my favorite things in nature. I don't really have a favorite thing, but one thing that I extremely effing love is the Kalahari Desert. So at the moment, yes, things are starting to become bullish, but let's talk about the bear market of the Kalahari Desert. When it's the dry season, the ground is cracking. There's no hope of life. There's elephants looking for a water hole, dying, falling over, babies getting left behind. There's no hope for life. There's no water. There's no liquidity. There's no sustenance in that environment, in that ecosystem. So I'm using this analogy, the rainwater and the Kalahari Desert, as liquidity. So this is where we are. We're in the dry season. We've got no hope. People are starting to feel it. The disbelief is the hard part now. It's boring. This is something that your boy Crypto Elliot pointed out to me today. So if you're into Titan X, go follow him on Twitter. He's covering Titan X every single day. I love Crypto Elliot. I have awesome conversations with him. We really help each other. We really bounce off each other. And that's the type of guy that I am. And I love that. So if anyone wants to talk about these things, I'm an open book. I'm not, just because I'm on YouTube, like, don't perceive me as some sort of expert. I'm humbly wanting to learn. My mind is open. I'm accepting the world. So come to me. let's learn. I'm not going to shill your bag, so don't come to me and say, oh, shill this or whatever. Like, I'm probably not going to do it. I gravitate towards this because I'm interested in the ATROPA ecosystem first. Before anyone even told me anything about it, I became interested in it. Before I even had any money in it, I studied it and tried to understand it, and I loved it. I loved it. It made my heart sing, and so I follow that. I don't have enough time to follow all the different coins. I just don't have that time. But this is where we are at the moment in Pulsechain. The disbelief again. The people that I never thought we're going to doubt are starting to doubt. So they're in that disbelief, and even it's boring. It's like, it's not exciting. And it is. I was also feeling that. It's like, that's why I started putting money into ATROPA, because it's like, well, this is boring in Pulsechain. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to keep DCAing, and I have been DCAing. All my fresh capital, majority of it goes into Pulsechain. But it's also kind of boring. It's like, yeah, well, things just keep going down and sideways. But that consistency of effort is what you really need. Sticking to that plan. It's the hardest part, man. It's the hardest part. There's no free lunches. Again, people I never thought would doubt are starting to doubt. Will the rain ever come? In the Kalahari Desert, the little elephants, where's the rain? I mean, they don't think. They're just like cells in a body. They just move according to the order of nature. Birds don't think about their next meal. They just fly to the next meal. They just move. They just go. They don't have a brain and a mind world like we do. If a bird loses its leg, it doesn't say, oh, I've lost my leg, I'm so depressed, I'm never going to find a bird wife, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. They don't have that. They just live. That's the true way to live. That's how humans should be, but we're not, because we have this mind world that we're living according to. And this is why mindset is everything. The delusional faith. There's no free lunches. Not everybody, but I believe that there's people, a large majority of people, that really tricked their mind into this false sense of positivity. It's like, okay, what are the things that I need to do to actually make it? All right, I need to be positive. I need to just keep buying, and I just need to follow that. And now that idea is being tested. Oh, I just keep doing this and the 10,000x is going to come, but it's just that concept is being tested. There is no free lunch. It's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be that easy. These are the tests. These are the tests now. Can you survive the bear market of the Kalahari Desert? Can you make it to the monsoon? The transformation of the Kalahari Desert, when the Kalahari Desert becomes a bull market, the monsoon season, baby, those rains come, it just pisses down with rain. It pisses down with rain. And the whole, it's like a flood, like it comes to life. Everything turns green. All the fish are coming from all the different streams, and all the animals are coming and playing and eating, and the birds, and there's so much hope for life, and everything's being regenerated. It's exactly like crypto. We got 3 years of bear, 3 years of trash, 3 years of desert, 3 years of no hope, 3 years of just barren death. And then the rain comes for that year. It pisses down. The euphoria in this instance is the hardest part, because you think the rain is going to last forever. Everything's green. Everyone's happy. You're looking around. This is fantastic. The euphoria is the hardest part. In the bear, the scales, the mind, it's always the mind, man. It's always the mind. This is why mindset is like the most fundamental thing, but nobody cares about that. People just want the candles and the green. But man, there's going to be so many people in this bull market that aren't going to make the money, because they're going to get trapped on just this very simple fact of the euphoria. I'm telling you now. Like I even read the other day on one of Somi's tweets, there was some guy who's been in like he's become a millionaire multiple times and then lost it all. It's like, how can that possibly happen? Because of your mindset. If your mind can't receive and can't handle that money, you're just going to lose it all. You're just going to lose it all. And if you're euphoric and you think it's going to go forever, it makes me sad, but that's the way markets are. People I never thought would ask me about crypto are asking me about Shiba Inu, whether Shiba Inu is a good buy. This is the signal, man. That was the signal. in the last bull market. I should have known. I should have known. My uncle, who was like, crypto's a scam. Love him to bits. But he's asking me about Shiba freaking Inu. It was like, it was the most obvious signal from the world. The most obvious signal from the world. Now I'm attuned to that and I know, this is the world speaking. Listen to what the world is saying. Don't look at the individual. Listen to the world. Mindset is everything. The plan is everything. If you have a good plan and you stick to the plan, you can eat your lunch at the right time. When it's 12 o'clock, you eat your lunch and then you throw the trash away. So the mindset, who? There's only one person who is responsible for the mindset. The mindset, I'm going to keep dripping this in because I think this is so important. I think, again, everybody, this is where the delayed gratification comes into it. Developing your mind is also delayed gratification. It's easy to just want to chase the good feelings. But if that's what you're chasing, then that's what you're going to get. If you're going to have that short-lived gratitude, you're also going to have short-lived gains that will not last. That will not last because your mind is not right. And there's only one person who's responsible for your mind, and that's you. And if you have the perspective that everything is my fault and you don't blame anyone, if you start blaming people on Twitter and Telegram and you're pissed off because of your decisions, you need to reflect on yourself. If you're angry, I'm not blaming you because I was exactly the same. So I'm not blaming you, but you have to blame yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to reflect on yourself. Why am I being this way? Okay, I'm being this way because I have too much money in this ecosystem. I'm overweighted. I put more than I could afford to risk. And I didn't do things properly because I was being greedy because I wanted that 10,000x and I thought it was going to be easy. What am I going to do differently next time? It's actually your fault. If you buy ATROPA and ATROPA goes to zero, there's no point coming and complaining to me because what are you actually going to achieve of that? You're just trying to outlet that negative energy because you can't handle it and you want to spew it on somebody because it's going to make you feel good. That's what it really boils down to. That negative energy is trapped, so you're trying to get it out of your system. So, and you spew it on someone. And really, the best way to reflect on yourself is to learn the method for discarding your mind. So when I spoke about that mind world, when you close your eyes and you see that world, you open your eyes, you think you're living in the world, but you're actually just living. This is like a projector that's projecting out the way that you see the world. It's like the allegory of Plato's cave. Whatever you have in there is how you see the world. But when you clear that away, those preconceptions, that past that's in your mind, when you clear that away, when Eckhart Tolle says, free yourself from the past. Okay, how do you do that, Eckhart Tolle? How do you actually do that? He talks about stare at the flower and just don't think. It's like, bro, the mind never stops. What do you mean just don't think? That's impossible. Actually clear it from your mind through self-reflection meditation. Let it come up and discard it. And as you do that, you come out of that videotape and you live in the world and you're able to just see everything as it is. Your mind is like water, like glass. It's light. It's light. The consciousness of God is right here. And you're in tune with everything. You're one. You're not this individual self. You're the whole. And so you're able to adjust to the world and stay in tune with the world. That's what I believe. That's what I love. That's what I live for. That's what I'm trying to help the world with, because I believe that it is the way to world peace. I believe that it's the way to heaven on earth. So thank you very much, everybody. Again, let's connect. Let's grow together. If you have anything that you want to share, reach out to me. I'm happy to hear it. This was a long episode. Oh my gosh, it's like maybe an hour now. I tried to talk a lot slower. And to be completely honest, Crypto Elliot, I hope you appreciate this, bro. Like, I know you like the long episode, so I did this deliberately long episode for you today. I hope, nevertheless, it was still valuable for others. If it wasn't, or if there was something that you'd like to comment about, anyone out there, I would love to hear some feedback. I'm always trying to adjust the content to the audience. So whatever you guys say, I try and adjust to you guys and girls. So please leave feedback, leave comments, leave criticisms. I will always try and adjust to you guys. If you want it quicker or faster or whatever, I tried to slow down. I tried to be very deliberate in the way that I was talking because I don't want to rant too much. And so I hope that that's appreciated, and I hope that it's well received. So with that said, thank you very much, everybody. Looking forward to connecting with you. Please, honestly, I'm open, man. I really am. And whatever you guys share with me and learn, I will share it with everybody else, and I'll shout you out if you want that. If you don't want it, then you can also say, but I really want to connect and share. That's what I'm all about. Coexistence, Stephen, man. Let's coexist in the world together. Let's live together forever. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all family. We're all one. Really, really, that is a fact. That is a fact. It's a scientific fact, and it will be proven over time as people's consciousness changes. They don't need people like me, an idiot on the internet, telling them, yes, we're all one. And you hear that and you think, oh, this guy's a hippie, he meditates, kumbaya. You'll know for yourself. You'll know for yourself. It's like, oh my gosh, how did I actually not see this? That's the way the world is going to be in the future. How did I not see this? How was I living in this world where I thought my family was just this thing that came out of my body? I thought that was my family. Oh, I saw a picture on the wall that's my mom and dad's sister, and that means that's my uncle and auntie, and that's my family, and that's what I care. It's only your cells that are like attracted to that you think, oh, that's my family. Nothing wrong with loving that. But the true love is the love of humanity, the love of the all. Look after your kids, look after your family. I respect you and I love you for it. But that true love extends to all of humanity. Coexistence, Stephen. A little bit of an end rant there. I love you guys. Take care. See you later.